Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome to COMEUP 2022, and thank you so much for joining us today. Before we begin, let's take some time for a brief introduction. How are you, Nikhil?
I'm doing absolutely great.
It is a pleasure to meet you here today.
Same here.
Yeah. Before we going further, please introduce yourself. And also, can you tell us about Indian startup ecosystem briefly, such as size of venture capital, and also number of unicorns you have, and also what sectors of startups are most popular in India?
So I run India's largest technology incubator, which is situated at Indian Institute of Technology in Kanpur. So currently I manage close to 150 unicorns, 150 startups in India. And we are a sector agnostic incubator. We have interest in medtech, deep tech, AI, ML, and different ways. So I'll just speak to you about what we are doing. Slides. Okay. So before we do that, let me ask a question to my moderator, to Kevin. Yeah. And he loves Indian food. So Kevin, what do you love about the Indian food?
Oh, I love it because you know what? Just before this session, actually I had a curry for my lunch. Probably the most my favorite dish is the vindaloo, chicken vindaloo. Is that right?
Chicken vindaloo, yes.
Yeah, vindaloo.
I know Kevin has been studied in UK, so most of the people who have studied in UK or worked in UK, they like chicken vindaloo. Thank you very much. Coming back to the unicorn, the last 10 years, the unicorn surge has happened in India. In fact, between 2011 and 2020, there were just 14 unicorns were there. And from 2020 to 2022, there is a huge surge which has happened. Particularly in 2021, we were seeing one unicorn a week. Every week there was unicorn being formed. So which is quite significant. On the right side, you can see there is 102 top unicorns who are displayed here. In this year itself, we have close to now 20 unicorns which has come up. Certainly, there is I would say, trend which is going on. Some of the unicorns which have grown to the market have started coming back to the different size. But that's fine. But that demonstrates the huge potential of Indian market, the opportunity that exists in the Indian market, the kind of money which has been flowing into the market. And many of the unicorns have started their working in India, and they shifted their base to Singapore, to Silicon Valley, and vice versa.
Wow, fantastic. I do really admire the achievement from the Indian startup and its ecosystem altogether. And then I'd like to ask a question from the Korean startups point of view. Why the Indian market is so fascinating or thrilling?
So it's a very interesting question, particularly for the Korean startups. The Indian market, I'll give you certain statistics about the domestic Indian market. So as you know, India is one of the largest democracies in the world. We have an accounted population of 1.3 billion people. I live in a state up north which is called Uttar Pradesh, which has a population of 250 million people, which is 5 times of the Korean population. That opens up a huge possibility of domestic clients and domestic customers. So for example, if you have a B2C company, if you are a SaaS company, if you're a robotics company, if you are a manufacturing company, even if you are a medical technology company, you don't have to look out. You can sell your product, you can look for partners, you can look for investments, and you look for consumers within the market itself. Another important point I want to make is India is very well known for the Korean companies. like some of the best brands which I use all the time. In my home, if you come, you will find a Hyundai car, LG TV, Samsung phone, electronics which are there. So the Korean electronics and the car companies are the #1 priority for the Indian companies. So that's fascinating. So the Korean technology is considered to be top-notch as far as the Indian consumers are concerned. So the acceptability of the Korean products is superior as far as the domestic consumers are concerned.
It sounds India has a scale and technology all together in your country. It's really great to hear that Korean products and brands are really well accepted in India. The next question could be what could be the benefit that the Korean startup can get from the Indian startup ecosystem when they decide to go to India? And on the other way around, what could Indian startup look for when they come into Korea? If they want to decide to come to Korea, then what they're looking for?
So India is we have a outstanding talent pool. We, like the institution which I work for, we have given some of the best known names in the tech industry, like the CEO of Google come from the IIT system. Till recently, the CEO of Twitter come from the IIT system. The global CEO of IBM, he come from the IIT system. Similarly, the global CEO for Microsoft, he comes from a similar system, not from IIT, but another institution. So many of the top tech companies today are managed by the Indian CEOs, which have first-generation immigrants. So they did their graduation in India. At that time, in India did not have too many opportunities, around 3 decades back. So they migrated to US and they built up their career there. Now what is happening? Not many engineers are looking to take the job abroad. I'll give you an interesting example. In my institution where I work, we have close to, in 30 years back, maybe 300 students were graduating. 280 were going abroad in US. And 20 of them were staying back, 10 of them becoming bureaucrat, and 10 of them joining the domestic companies. Today, we have engineering graduates of 900 students, and you'll be surprised to know 850 don't go abroad. They look for domestic opportunities. They work for domestic clients. They work for international companies which are there. Very recently, there was a young student who called me, and he said, sir, I got an acceptance in Google, and I got a job in Copenhagen. I have an option of going to Munich, and I have an option of staying back in Hyderabad. I say, if I were you, if I were a young student, I would have gone to Copenhagen. It's good. You can have an international mindset.
Certainly.
But then I got to know that he decided to take up a job in Hyderabad. When I asked him why, he said, at least the food I know the friends, is good money, and a better life, I can meet my family. So that's the change in mindset is happening. Now coming back to your question, now when you have such a great talent pool available in the country, it's quite interesting for Korean startups plus established companies to come and get that talent pool. Because that talent pool, if you hire the same Indian engineer in Silicon Valley, it will cost you $250,000. Right. But whereas the same engineer in Bangalore or Hyderabad or Gurgaon will cost you maybe $50,000 or $75,000. So your cost of operations significantly comes down. So there's an option of good Korean startups to look for talent in India, explore the Indian domestic market, and also look for the venture capitalists for expanding their product and services.
Sounds fantastic. I actually been to India twice already. Once I was given a keynote speech for the AICT, which is the All India Council for Technical Education. And in that association, I was told that there was 8 million students, technical university students that belong to that association in particular. So it's a sheer number of engineering students coming out of India every year. It's amazing thing, yes. I think I have to move the next question is, we're talking about the scales and technologies and benefits, what the Korean startup can, get from the India when they're moving into. But now we're talking about the challenges. If any, then what will be the main challenge for the foreign startups or investors who wanted to start their business in India? Do you have any?
Yeah, so most of you understand Europe pretty well. So let me compare Europe with India. Now, it's a peculiar situation. You cannot compare US with India because US primarily has similar lifestyle, similar language, or maybe two languages, English and Spanish. Small groups exist who are speaking the language, but the national language is similar. But Europe is different. Europe has, I think, now 29 countries in EU. In India, we have 31 states. Almost all the states speaks different language. The religion, the religion can also differ. The food habits may differ. The consumer preference also may differ. It's a one country. In fact, I'm not carrying now the Indian currency note. I would have shown you. We are the only currency note in the world where it is printed in 16 languages. Wow. We have 29 official languages, and we have 850 dialects. So the product that you are launching in New Delhi would be different than the product which is consumed in Mumbai. Yeah. It is possible.
But still, even though you have 16 different official languages, the English probably the primary communication tool, isn't it?
Yes, at least in urban class. So I can divide the whole Indian community, since you mentioned about a large number of students. Since we have a large population, there are a lot of challenges as well. We are giving the third largest number of billionaires to the Forbes list every year. At the same time, 22% of our population lives below poverty line. So that's another challenge that we face. Some of the opportunity that exists for startups, that how do we create sustainable businesses where we can help out the poor people to bring them out from the poverty, and food security, education, health services, that opportunity another exists. The government services, like government is a huge consumer of products and service from the startups. So for example, the government of India has a scheme called the Smart City Scheme, where hundreds of the city has been mentioned as a smart city. So smart parking, garbage disposal, lighting system, traffic management, dissemination of health services, all the opportunity exists in that way. So there are challenges that exist being a part of the large economy, but at the same time, it's like an accounting practice. You have more risk, more profit. So if you have a heart to enter into that kind of economy, the profit will be superior. That's a promise.
Do you have a kind of a startup act in India? Because every developing country has their own startup act to support their startups, and such as deduction of the tax. Also, there's a lot of different types of allowance for the startups. Also, the special visa program for the startup and things like that. So, I think probably this kind of a package probably provided for foreign or Korean startup if they want to come.
So yes, if you can put up the slide, please. We, like Government of India, do have the specific startup policy, and all the states, all the major states in India do have the specific startup policy, which is fairly generous. So in fact, that's an invitation from my side to come and work with us. We are the oldest IIT Kanpur, the institution which I represent is the oldest tech institution in the country. We're the largest incubator, 150 startups. The talent-wise, like if there is a foreign company which is coming in and tying up with the Indian startup can request grant and investment from the government. So there is a multi-billion-dollar fund which has been set up as a sovereign fund, which is managed by a professional bank, which also invests in funds of funds. There is an opportunity that exists. Recently, the government of India has announced more than $12 billion worth of semiconductor opportunity. There is opportunity exist in sustainability, deep tech, cybersecurity, and there is, like, if you are established company wants to establish your factory, there is a land subsidy, there is an interest subsidy, there is a long-term loan that is available, and like one-stop license, you can get your license immediately. So both the government, both the private sector is inviting the foreign company with open arm. And there is a reason for it. Because innovation, if you want to do your own R&D and innovation, it takes a lot of time. So in the current situation, the collaboration is the key. You cannot run alone. You have to work with different organizations, whether it's Korean companies, whether it's American companies, whether it's British companies. Like, we all have to work together. We have to work together to solve the problems. If we keep on working in silos, we all will not be able to sustain the way we want. So it's time for us to work together. It's time for us to find solution which can solve the problem of the Indian population, Korean population, and we solve the problem of the world.
Great. Having listened to your all the potential sectors or the business areas, or the sectors which what you expect from the Korean startups come to India, sounds like it's all hardware based. Maybe not, but seems that deep tech and also hardware startups are maybe the best opportunity for moving into India. Is that true?
Yeah, so I'll give you a couple of statistics. In medical technologies, we still import 80% of the medtech from outside the country. So there is an opportunity for doing that. So there was a huge dependency on imports earlier from China, from Taiwan, from Vietnam, even from Korea or Western countries. And now we realize after COVID that we have to set up the domestic operations more strongly, and it is cost effective. For example, LG, Samsung, Hyundai, Kia, they all have India-specific production, which is consumed there, and it also helps them in hedging the cost. Because of, imagine that you have to build up a car here, then you have to put it up in a ship, and then you transport the ship to, it's a huge cost that does not make any sense. So for companies which they can set up, and they can help the companies to work together. You mentioned about medical technologies or hard tech companies, but also there is an opportunity for AI companies, for SaaS companies, for deep tech companies, the companies which are working on managing the data. Imagine you have a population of 1 billion and above, data is open to you. So you can play around the data, you can come up with new solutions, new layers. The model, if that model succeed in this kind of population, it will succeed everywhere in the world.
Thank you so much. It sounds a fantastic opportunity for all the Korean startup, especially related to the deep techs and manufacturing or collaboration with all those Korean corporate in India. Probably the last question, but not the least question. Could you tell me about key result or achievement you wanted to make from this COMEUP event? Also, what collaboration or what partner do you expect to meet and collaborate each other?
So first of all, I'm thankful to Joshua, my friends Derek Kim, to Kevin, to Hongjung Shup for inviting me here to Korea for the first time. I always been fascinated. I have been a consumer of Korean products myself, been fascinated with the country, about a lot of stories. But when I come here, I realize all the stories are true. The potential of Korean technology is huge. The collaboration opportunity exists. Today evening at 5 o'clock, we are signing an MOU with the Korea Startup Forum. There is already, we have spoken to a number of partners during my visit. There is a plan to co-launch an accelerator program with India, Korea. So will be 8 to 10 companies from Korea, 8 to 10 companies in India, and then we switch. We expose them to Korea market, and the Korean companies will be exposed to Indian market. We have offered the Korean startups to come and work with us. They can soft launch their product, and it's an open offer to you. Whoever wants to come, we can provide you free office space at my university. We can provide you residence and also access to the talent which is available to you. Because as I have said, the time is to collaborate, time is not to compete anymore. Time is to collaborate, time is to work together, and we have to find new avenues of working together because there are more problems and less solutions. So there is no point in competing with a solution. We have to find solutions for the new problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Great. You know what? There is a kind of joking in Korea in startup community. Recruiting skilled or good software engineers are much more difficult than the meeting of God. You know that? That is kind of a joke in Korea. So certainly the India and Korea collaboration is probably the kind of synergy. It will create a lot of synergy going through this turbulent time. Globally, we don't see that certainty there, and then always uncertain situation at this moment. So I think your comment is really encouraging for the Korean startups. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And I think we still have time. We can have some questions.
Yeah, we can have some question from the floor, and also the Kakao Talk. You can send the question to Nikhil.
네, 감사합니다. 앞서 소개에 혼선이 있었던 점 양해 부탁드립니다. 모더레이터 진행해 주신 우리 한국액셀러레이터협회 연규황 감사님과 니킬 아가랄님께 큰 박수 부탁드립니다.